Welcome to Rauta's Underground Trio. Once again, we have three different bands from three different parts of the world, and these are all, indeed, underground bands. First, I'll introduce them in alphabetical order, and then worst to best according to my own opinion, so let's take it from that. First, to Norway with the band called Entomophthora, whatever it's supposed to be pronounced. Entomophthora. Or something like that. Try pronouncing that when you're drunk and as a skunk and all. Modern death metal by some old school Norwegian veterans. Then we have Repuked death metal from Sweden for autopsy fans and the like. And then finally Rotpit, Long Live the Rot. This is from international waters. Partially Sweden as well, and so forth. So let's shuffle a bit. And I was thinking, did I actually confuse this repuked country with something else? Well, whatever it is. If I made a mistake, I pardon. Sometimes it happens when you're just confusing bands when you're listening them to back to back. Anyway, let's shuffle a bit, figuratively speaking, and then worst to best. First, Rotpit. This is the second album by this international lineup, partially Swedish, partially from, was it Switzerland? And Long Live the Rot is this second album. Here is the lineup, mostly known, I guess, for the work of Johnny Pederson. He's the main songwriter, guitarist, bassist, whatever. And he is one of the guys who has way too many bands, if you ask me. And of course, being part of a lot of different albums throughout the years. Many people, I guess, know him mostly for his work with the band called Wombat, an old Swedish death metal band, but he has been in very, very many other bands throughout the years. One could even make the claim that he has more bands in his discography than many people have written songs, not just albums. So what can we really expect from Rotpit and Long Live the Rot? Well, this is the kind of old school death metal that could have been coming out already in the, say, early 90s. So it's kind of rotten, it's filthy, it's dirty, it's muddy. Yeah, pretty much that. Simplistic old school death metal with no gimmicks, no bullshit, nothing extra. There are no synths, there are no clean vocals, there are no weird ass melodies, nothing progressive. It's actually very regressive death metal in that sense. So yes, retro death metal in the business. Now, obviously if you like old school death metal, there are no excuses but to check this one out. That comes with a sort of a disclaimer. If you expect anything else and try explaining like, hey, there is something new in it, nope. The thing here is, this is basically, in a way, the typical demo-ish or first level album kind of a thing from a band that maybe could have done a little bit better. Now, I'm not saying it's bad, by no means, because it's not, but in a way, it's very, very mediocrity when it comes to death metal. No single riff, no single song, no individual elements here are gonna like shine through like, hey, this is something phenomenal, you gotta check it out. And now that we have had this kind of a retro death metal revival of sorts for quite a few years now, it's really, really hard to stand out. I mean, this is an album that probably couldn't have stood out even if it was 1991. I mean, the train was already a little bit late by then because everything that happens here was probably out already by the end of 80s. So while this is fundamentally doing things right in the sense of like, let's do basic death metal with no bullshit, no gimmicks and all, one could really say this is not gonna be one of the interesting albums for that sense. So if you're looking for an album to go with when you're drinking beers before you head out to the bars or gigs or whatever, I think Rotpit basically delivers that. If you're looking for something, I don't know, catchy or drilling into your head, like it's very, very memorable and all, this is not the album. But that being said, however, proper old school death metal revival. Very retro, but nothing that kind of sticks. Then we have this other old school death metal band, Repuked, which is a little bit different. This is more dirty, more filthy, and while not exactly more memorable, I would say this is a tad bit better. And why? Well, first of all, this is where it gets filthier, and in a way, this is a little bit groovier also. Now, as I mentioned, Autopsy, with this club squirting blood, I would say, yeah, it's pretty much right there. So, whereas this is not maybe necessarily as, heavy as, say, that Rotpit, I would say this kind of passes beyond that because, or wins by an inch, if you will, because this is indeed filthier, and the kind of a grooviness, in my opinion, adds a little bit of a layer right there. So once again, if you're looking for that kind of Autopsy thing without actual listening to Autopsy and, well, other bands of the given time, this is probably a good way to do yourself that kind of a favor. So if you're like bored with, bands sounding too clean or becoming too technical or becoming too, death grindy and want to slow down a little bit, go back to the basic square one kind of a death metal and have that puss and wrath and everything right there with the vomit and shit, diarrhea going on, this is probably the album you're looking for. But that being said, however, once again, nothing out of ordinary, nothing really that kind of sticks or is super memorable. But like I said, this grooviness, in my opinion, saves a little bit. I mean, it's a plus in a world where it's so easy to just do the kind of a basic stuff, and then you're like, why would people go for this rather than the original culprits in the given genre? Now, I don't know about that either, but yeah, it's a little bit better than that. Now, my favorite of the style comes from Norway, which has never been known for exactly its death metal. Everybody knows Norwegian black metal, and that scene alone, has been delivering great albums time after time, great bands, and so forth. Obviously, there was a death metal scene back in the days from Norway, that is basically before the whole black metal thing started. I mean, after all, when we go looking back of the history of, Dark Throne, Immortal Version, whatever, you will find a lot of those death metal things. And obviously there is Cadaver and Blood Red Throne, among others. These guys are no newbies. These are actually veterans of the scene. And for some reason, they decided to start a new band in 2022. And this is the debut album. Album name here it is, Instinctual Disease. Maybe not the most catchy names when it comes to the, band name or album name or whatsoever, but in my opinion, this is pretty nicely done. First of all, this is more of a modern sound, so whatever you had with Rotpit or Repuked right there with their kind of a retro revival thing, this is like exactly the opposite. But it's not one of those modern death metal bands that sound super technical, super progressive, or adding weird layers and doing kind of avant-garde-ish thing, like as if they were, supposed to create something new. This is definitely modern thing, but there it stops. So if I'm like thinking, maybe you would roughly go into the direction of, say, modern Blood Red Throne, roughly, give or take, with the given sound, the production that is, and the certain riff styles. Mind you, if these riffs were played with a little bit different production, some of them actually could make pretty fucking decent black metal riffs. So it's more like a choice to sound like a modern death metal thing rather than, say, Black Death. But lots of these riffs, I'll be honest with it, are something that, with a little bit of twist in the vocals, with a little bit different, songwriting and all, yeah, they could pass out, pass through as black metal riffs and all. But overall, this one has quite a few of, got a few great, riffs, or even not even outright great, at least really good ones. And in my opinion, it kind of helps that this is, taking the benefit of modern sound, without sounding too sterile or overly polished. I mean, it's still, sounding like death metal, nothing something like, pop music or whatever. So all in all, pretty energetic stuff, and in my opinion, it also kind of helps that this is more of an aggressive tempo, even if not the total blast beat kind of a thing. So these guys are up to something, in my opinion. All of these are worth listening to if you're a death metal fanatic, just with a little bit level of success and quality and everything. Obviously, links are provided in the description box, so if I got you interested in any of these, check the ones out you prefer. go for your favorite streaming services or go for the physical product. It's totally up to you. And now, off you go. Stay dead metal, stay brutal, and bye-bye.